here are our top stories.
To see a Mustang running wild, that kind of swagger, I mean, it's the epitome of America.
Federal officials planning to round up hundreds of wild horses in Colorado's rangeland. But protesters say their methods are inhumane.
And this helicopter roundup will kill and injure horses. And these are America's wild horses.
The debate over wild horse management reaches the state capitol as conservationists warn of dwindling resources.
Many of those animals will not make it through the winter. There's simply not enough food out there.
Arapahoe County Sheriff under investigation after an incident at a bar. New details into what happened and what the sheriff's office is now saying. Plus, a troubled nightclub in downtown Denver feeling the heat after a deadly shooting. Now the city is stepping in.
I see why people are leaving Colorado. Like literally a paycheck to paycheck.
Help on the way for people struggling to pay rent. We go in depth on how millions of dollars is going to help renters.
So can help with relocation assistance, so security deposits and future rent if they need to relocate.
Tonight, protesters gathering outside the state capitol urging officials to postpone an upcoming roundup of wild horses in northwestern Colorado. Thank you for joining us this evening. I'm Jessica Porter. Over the next 2 weeks, the Bureau of Land Management says it will round up more than 700 wild horses at the Sandwash Basin, close to the Wyoming border. BLM estimates that roughly 896 horses are in the herd management area, exceeding capacity that the land can sustain. Their plan is to gather 783 horses from the area. Of those, 25 studs and 25 mares will be returned with fertility control. In a letter to Interior Secretary Deb Haaland, Governor Polis wants BLM to find a more humane way to round up the herds. Our Denver7's Addie Guajardo spoke to both sides today about the urgency behind the roundup.
The sight of wild Mustangs can be mesmerizing.
And they're absolutely fantastic. To see a Mustang running wild, that kind of swagger, I mean, it's the epitome of America.
Wildlife photographer Scott Wilson captured these images in the Sandwash Basin.
The horses are healthy. You go up there yourself.
But soon there will be far fewer horses to photograph. Bruce Silito with Bureau Land Management says with more than 850 wild horses roaming northwest Colorado, it could devastate the land or horses could starve. It's why he says they need to be rounded up.
Over 20 years of data has showed there is not enough groceries in the kitchen for all the other animals that rely on the basin.
BLM is using helicopters to corral the horses and will then either auction them off or make them available for adoption. The agency insists the process is a safe one.
We are very careful not to get too close to those animals. There's no need to run them. Those animals will walk right into the trap if we allow them.
Wilson disagrees.
My first reaction is horror. I mean, the notion of running a helicopter against a wild mare and her foal is just appalling.
Protesters who gathered at the state capitol Tuesday feel the same way.
This helicopter roundup will kill and injure horses. And these are America's wild horses.
Terry Hall is with Plan for Wild Horses, an organization opposing the horse roundup.
We can do it humanely if it has to be done, which it does not.
Governor Jared Polis echoed a similar message in a letter to the deputy director of BLM. He expressed concerns about the historic scale of the roundup. Polis suggested working closely with BLM to come up with a more humane outcome for herd management and urged the organization to temporarily freeze the removal of horses.
We cannot let these animals move forward into the winter with this number. Many will die.
Advocates say they just want a seat at the table and their voice to be heard.
And I don't want us kind of shun the BLM. We want to work together and talk about proportionate and humane ways of managing these horses. We recognize they've got a job to do.
Please know that we care about these animals too. They are a beautiful heritage of our American West.
Addie Guajardo, Denver7.
BLM protects wild horses and burros across nearly 27 million acres of public land in 10 states. The Bureau says after the horses have been rounded up, they'll be put in private care through the Bureau of Land Management's adoption and sales program. The program offers vaccinations and other requirements for the horses before they're put up for adoption in either the fall or spring. The Bureau estimates nearly 72,000 horses live in the West right now, which is nearly 3 times as many as public lands can sustain. That includes more than 2,400 wild horses in Colorado. That puts Colorado closer to the bottom of the 10 states managed by the agency. Digging deeper, nearly 60% of those horses are in Nevada, Wyoming, and California had the second and third highest totals. Colorado is 6 out of the 10 states. Now, we've been following the wild horses conservation effort for several years now. To learn more, just go to thedenverchannel.com. Arapahoe County Sheriff Tyler Brown is under investigation for an incident with another person at a Greenwood Village restaurant and bowling alley. Greenwood Village Police is currently leading the investigation into Brown. Brown and Greenwood Village Police confirmed the incident happened at Pindustry. Details of what actually occurred during the incident have not been confirmed. Sheriff Brown has released a statement saying in part, quote, "I have not been made aware of the details of the allegations against me. I have fully cooperated with police and look forward to commenting on the situation at a later date when appropriate." Sheriff Brown will remain on duty while the investigation continues. Beta nightclub is in hot water with the city of Denver. As first reported by our news partner, the Denver Post, the city is moving forward with plans to revoke the nightclub's licenses. Beta is located at 19th and Blake Street in downtown Denver. According to an administrative order issued by Denver's Department of Excise and Licensing, Beta hired unlicensed security guards, failed to keep people from bringing in weapons, and failed to control crowding inside the building. The department ordered Beta's owner to appear at an October 18th hearing to prove why they shouldn't revoke their license. The club will remain open until a final order is issued or settlement is reached. More than 3 million families are at risk of losing their homes after the Supreme Court struck down eviction protections. This is according to an analysis by Goldman Sachs. That number includes tens of thousands of tenants. Renters living in large cities with tight housing markets face an even bigger risk of getting evicted. The end of the eviction moratorium put thousands of Coloradans on edge, wondering how they would get by. Help could be on the way, though. Denver7's Gary Brode explains how millions of dollars in federal assistance could finally be spent.
For Kashaya, Canada, it's almost moving day.
Currently, I live in Arapahoe County, and I'm moving back to Denver County.
While her first month's rent is already paid, she's still short.
Definitely needed help getting my deposit.
In fact, tens of thousands of Coloradans find themselves in a similar situation.
How am I going to get help? It puts you in a what am I going to do type of situation.
There's been millions in federal funding set aside for those struggling to make rent during the pandemic. The problem is, most of that money hasn't been given out.
We can use these funds to really make sure that households remain stable in their homes or are able to get access to new homes if they need.
On Monday, Denver City Council gave final approval on a partnership with local nonprofits to get that money in the hands of people who need it faster.
Felt like a partnership to distribute the funds would be the best process for residents so that they're not having to try to pick where do I go for a certain application.
Denver has $49 million to hand out. You heard that right, $49 million.
Folks can get up to 15 months of assistance, including arrears or future rent. So can help with relocation assistance.
Oh, it'll be wonderful. Like, it'll definitely take some weight up off my chest, you know, to where now I can go and I can focus on other things that I can get done.
Melissa Toddy with Housing Stability says the rental assistance could be in a struggling renter's account within 2 weeks of applying.
We couldn't do this work without our local nonprofits. They're the ones who are working with residents and working with landlords to distribute these funds.
Bottom line, if you've applied before with no luck, apply again. The money is still there. In Denver, Gary Brode, Denver7.
Distributing rental assistance funds is not just a problem for local governments. The state is having a hard time distributing funds as well. Colorado received $444 million from the federal government. Since the process to distribute that money is so cumbersome, only $33 million of that has been handed out. Although just last week the U.S. Supreme Court struck down the federal eviction moratorium, you might find it helpful to know that there is some help or some protections for Coloradans. Governor Polis has an executive order in place that protects any tenant applying for rental assistance from eviction for 30 days. That order expires this Saturday, September 4th. The governor says he will consider extending that if there's a backlog. To make matters worse for Coloradans struggling to get by, federal unemployment benefits come to an end Saturday in our state. 116,000 Coloradans are set to lose the extra $300 from federal benefits this weekend. 87,000 of those people are set to lose all unemployment benefits. We have a full breakdown of who will lose out on benefits and resources to help you find a job over on our website.
Still to come on Denver7 News on Local 3. One family turning tragedy into a message for the unvaccinated.
It's so easy to avoid being where I'm at. Get your shot.
Next, we take a look at whether the FDA approval of the Pfizer vaccine will give people the push to get their shot.
There's a lot of misinformation out there.
Mid-upper 90s again today, but cooler and wetter weather is coming our way.
And coming up at the bottom of the hour, in the wake of Tropical Storm Ida, Louisiana's governor telling those who have evacuated not to return home yet.
The schools are not open, the businesses are not open, the hospitals are slammed. There's not water in your home and there's not going to be electricity.
More than 1 million people there without power, now bracing for more devastation.